Good morning. Thank you for joining us this morning. My name is Arturo Vargas. I'm the Executive Director of NALEO, the National Association of Latino Elected and Appointed Officials, a national membership organization of America's Latino public servants. We represent individuals at all levels of government, from school boards, cities, counties, state legislatures to members of Congress, from all political parties and from all national origins from throughout the country. I'm also Executive Director of the NALEO Educational Fund, a national nonprofit 501c3 organization whose mission is to promote the political participation of Latinos in the American political process. This morning, we're here to talk about the Latino vote in the midterm elections. What I will do first is present some data from a poll that we recently conducted on Latino attitudes going into the midterm elections. Then we'll have a conversation with two seasoned strategists for both the Republican Party and the Democratic Party about what these data mean. And then we'll open it up to the audience for Q&A, beginning first with members of the media and then to the general public. So on to the numbers. First of all, we know that the Latino community is a large and growing population. The most recent census estimates are that there are 47 million Latinos living in the United States. That's a 37% increase from 2000 to 2009, as compared to a 5% increase in population for the non-Latino population during the same period. We account for half of the total U.S. population growth during the past decade. One way of saying it is that this country grows by a person every 15 seconds. When you take into account births and deaths, migration and immigration, this country grows by a person every 15 seconds, every 30 seconds. That person is a Latino or Latina. Most Latinos are born in the United States, and the median age of Latinos is 27.2 years. We're a very young population, which has implications about the growing electorate and the growing segment of people who can vote. We had a major impact in the 2008 presidential election. We know that in November, Latinos were key, but something that we often forget was the impact that Latinos had during the primary season. So two examples of the impact Latinos had. First, in the Republican side, in the 2008 Republican primary for Florida, the exit poll suggests that had no Hispanics voted in the Florida Republican primary, Mitt Romney would have edged out John McCain in that primary election. However, because John McCain received more than half of the Hispanic vote, he won handily the Florida primary. And that put him on a trajectory to win the GOP nomination and go on to compete for the presidency. There was a similar dynamic on the Democratic side, and the data even suggests that Senator Obama could have won California had no Hispanic voted in that Democratic primary. However, because Senator Clinton was receiving 2/3 of the Hispanic vote consistently throughout the country, she handily won California, was able to stay in the race to the very end and compete for the nomination until she dropped out of the race in mid-June. So Latinos had an impact both on the Republican and the Democratic side of the nomination process, and of course in November had a decisive impact in turning many states that had voted for George Bush to Barack Obama. About 9.7 million Latinos voted in that presidential election, an increase of 28% over the 2004 election. The non-Latino vote only increased by 3%. Latinos comprise about 7.4% of all voters, up 6% from 2004. So going into 2010, what do we expect to see? Well, our projections are that roughly 6.6 million Latinos will vote in these midterm elections. That's a drop-off from presidential elections. That's expected. For every demographic group, there is always a drop-off from presidential election participation to midterm election participation. However, this is an increase of about 1.5 million more Latino voters in this off-year election as compared to 2006. One thing that is a challenge for our community is that although the population that is voting is growing consistently in every election, we can see by the red line that the number of Latinos who are able to vote is actually growing faster. Part of that is attributable to the young population, to the youthfulness of the Latino population, because every single month, 50,000 Latinos turn 18 years of age. These are Latinos who are U.S. citizens who then are entering the potential pool of the electorate. So what is on the mind of the Latino community in 2010? We conducted a poll of 1,600 Latino registered voters in 4 different states, 400 in California, in Florida, in Texas, and Colorado. The margin of error at the state level is 4.9%. The margin of error for the total sample is 2.5%. We chose these states because of the competitive nature of the number of statewide elections, and also because 3 of 5 potential Latino voters, in other words, 60% of all Latino citizens 18 years of age and older reside in these 4 states alone. The poll was conducted by Dr. Ricardo Ramirez, assistant professor of political science at the University of Southern California at the time. Now he is a tenured professor at Notre Dame. So the data show that the community is engaged as we move into the 2010 midterm elections. We asked them how certain they are to vote come November. You'll see by state that over 60% consistently say that they are certain to vote in the midterm elections. When you combine those with those that say that they are more than 50% certain or 50-50, you're getting 75% of registered voters saying they intend to turn out in November. In terms of how closely they're following this election, they are voters in California and Texas are following the elections most closely of all, least so in Colorado. Nonetheless, it shows that this electorate is engaged and closely following what's happening in this country today. We asked them about the direction of the country and how they feel about how things are going. In general, we asked them how do they think things are going for the country overall. You can see that in California and Florida, they seem to be the least optimistic about the direction of the country, with 1/3 of Latinos saying in both California and Florida that the country is going in the right direction. However, in Texas, 42% say that things are going in the right direction. We asked them how things are going. We asked them how they believe things are going for Latinos in particular. And if today Latinos are facing more challenges than before, you see that in the second chart that in fact Latino voters do believe that Latinos are facing increasing challenges as we move toward the elections, particularly in states like California, where some 70% of Latinos believe that Latino voters, that the community is facing a lot more challenges or somewhat more challenges as we move into the midterm elections. So it's a population that feels the country is moving in the right direction perhaps, but perhaps in the wrong direction for the Latino community in particular. In Florida is the most optimistic state in terms of where the community is going. We asked about approval ratings for both the president and Congress. Generally, the president enjoys high approval ratings among Latinos in each of these 4 states. Congress, less so. One of the most remarkable findings of our poll was when we asked Latino voters, registered voters, what issues are important to them in this election. What is remarkable is that consistently, decade over decade, when we have polled, not just our organization, but any polling firm that has asked Latino voters, what's important to you as you go into an election, consistently the top issues have been education, have been the economy, healthcare, even the war in Afghanistan and Iraq most recently. For the first time, polls are showing that immigration has emerged as the top priority for Latino registered voters. Keep in mind that these are individuals who are U.S. citizens, either native-born or naturalized citizens, so they do not have a personal immigration issue to resolve. They may know people who have such issues, but they personally do not have a stake in whether or not immigration law is changed. Something has shifted today in this country for Latinos. Immigration has emerged as a top priority, exceeding the economy, and we know that Latinos have experienced the highest unemployment rates of any other population group, highest foreclosure rates, yet with compared to immigration, the economy pales in comparison in its importance. When asked which issues are important, the first issue for 27% of Latino registered voters was immigration, followed by employment, cost of living, healthcare, and then education at the bottom.